Good morning, evening, afternoon, Moss here. Hope you are all doing fantastic, just like I am. Welcome to Moss on Sunday. This is Moss Sajady, where we explain life, literally explain life from the first principle level. So what does that mean? Again, first principle level is like most individuals, they have solutions or they find solutions, but then there's always exceptions to the rule, right? No matter what it is, even in science or even in religion, whichever way you go, it doesn't really matter, right? There's always exceptions to the rule. So if there's exceptions to the rule, then you're not at the first principle level. You're not at the top level on finding a solution for the problems that you have. Okay, so Moss on Sunday explains why your life is really the way it is, and we'll find that out later today as we do live scans on two individuals that I've never seen before. And I can pinpoint exactly what's going on with them, and then help them resolve it, help them transform it, not through years of therapy or even hours of an intervention session or anything like that, but literally within just a few minutes you can transform. Because exponential intelligence, what I teach, it's a whole new science. Exponential intelligence, or becoming exponentially intelligent, it's all about, say, transforming the dimension that you create yourself in, the dimension that you render yourself in. It's a whole new technology based on quantum neuroscience that we're getting into, and it's really obviously quite advanced, and it's really transformative. So today's session, today's talk on Moss on Sunday, is what parents need to know about childhood depression, right? And what you can do about it. And it's not just for parents. It's not just for parents. It's for those kids that are facing, childhood depression. And then it might also be for you if you've had child depression back in the day and you think you're over it, but still something is not complete in your life. Okay. So again, it's for young kids, even the youngest kids, which is unfortunate because nowadays, younger kids, they're like 8 or 9 year olds. They're on antidepressants. It's like, what the fuck is that, right? What the hell is going on, right? Why are younger kids, on antidepressants? So we're going to be going through that, how fear, anxiety, and depression originate, okay, the original form, uh, and what most people do about it, and then why your child or you are, say, still afraid of the dark or afraid of being alone, helping you resolve that as well. And then what to say to your kids when they do see or feel things that aren't there, right? Because a lot of times, we experience those things that aren't there. And, our parents, how many of you have been that way though, right? When you're a young kid, you could see things, or you could feel things, or you could experience things, or you had future vision, like somebody's knocking at the door, or about to knock on the door, or somebody's gonna call, and then you go, oh, somebody, so and so is gonna call, right? How many of you have had that? Well, that stuff's real, but a lot of us, again, no matter why, religions or whatever it is, they say that that's not real. It's just play here with the physical world, and scientists can't even figure that out, and they go, no, that stuff's not real. It's just it is what it is, and it's right here. But then great scientists like Einstein and Tesla and so on like that. Even Einstein said there's, spooky action at a distance. Again, couldn't figure out what, say, those things were that controlled this reality. So it's not about just spooky things walking around, scaring your kids and all that stuff. There are other possibilities, other realities, that dictate what happens in this reality. And I just want to clarify that because, that really sets the tone. And just reading some of the comments as well, that really sets the tone on like clearing out all the garbage underneath all this stuff, that there are, say, presences, there are other things out there that dictate what happens in this reality. Okay, so just coming it from, say, a scientific point of view, and science, not the new science, because the new science has been watered down into another religion. Literally, if you're not into this science, then it's literally you're the Antichrist and stuff like that. That's how bad scientists has gotten. Again, it's turned into another religion, which I might be actually doing an article about. But anyway, clearing all that stuff up, presences and all those things. Well, back in the day, um, back in the day, we had Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics is, what Newton decided to see is like, why does the apple drop down? Most people would sit underneath that tree and not even think about or comprehend. Is like, well, why doesn't it drop up or sideways, but why does everything drop down? And that's again the creation of gravity and so on. Not the creation, but the observation of gravity. So with that in mind, that's how those sciences that's how that science started, gravity, and then it led on to bigger and better things. And then back in the day, even some of those things that we just take as ordinary today, the scientists were put to death on, or they were jailed, or they were outcast. They couldn't publish their books or anything like that. Just simple Newtonian physics, things that we take for granted today, guys. Normal things like the Earth is not the center of the universe. People were put to death for that. Scientists were put to death for that. Their books and so on, they were burned. They were taken out of libraries because of other scientists, not just the religion, the religions, but because again, because of the other scientists, they didn't believe in that, right? And then the same thing happened about, say, when quantum mechanics, when there was a lot of things that Newtonian physics couldn't say really understand. There was a lot of holes in that theory, right? And then this is where religion jumped in, and this is where it's like, see, you can't explain the effects of God or the power of God and so on, until, say, quantum mechanics or quantum physics really got on stage. And it's like, well, we can't, because again, God isn't trying to hide anything. God is like, here's the keys to the kingdom. You can figure it out, or you can allow me to, say, guide you into that space. But most people want to go through it blindly. Exponential intelligence, by the way, allows you to understand the tools of the kingdom that you live in, this reality, right? So now, then you've got quantum physics explaining those details that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Okay, and that's the key, and that's why this is so important for your children to understand as well. Okay, and then it makes total sense because kids are logical. Now, let me say that again. Kids are logical. You're not. Most parents aren't. And this is where the fragmentation process between parents and child come into play. And then, they go their separate ways. But that's another subject that we'll be covering, on the youth topics and so on like that later on. But the reason why I bring that up is because the kids are logical. They're logical because they're understanding that there has to be a first principle, say, reason on why that stuff happens. Right? That's why I say that. Parents just make shit up, and then the kids are supposed to believe in it. That's the key. So again, in quantum science, they started to observe that there was a whole quantum world out there. Again, very, very small, say, particles, atoms and electrons and all those fun things that create this reality. They are the building blocks of this reality. Okay, so that we couldn't see before, the electron microscope and all those things. In fact, we couldn't even see bacteria back in the day. Doctors didn't know why people were getting sick and falling over because we didn't even realize or understand bacteria, and that's not even quantum level. That's just smaller, again, smaller molecules or smaller, say, dimensions of how this reality works, the reality that we experience here today. So over time, right, there's this transition or a bridge that, say, creates, say, things outside of space and time. Okay, so quantum mechanics or quantum physics hasn't gotten to that point yet, but there is a science, I would call it pure science or XI physics, that explains the details on some of those holes that are in quantum, say, physics. So those holes explain, like, say, presences and other frequencies that are out there that are known to science, by the way. They just can't figure out where to put them so they don't talk about them or they deny them. There are a small few, especially the Soviets, that go look at this like, wow, this is the reality, or this is the physics that dictate how, say, the quantum world works, that dictates how this reality works. So they're getting into that. XI is all about that. So I want to say that, and it's like, what does that have to do with your kids? Your kids will start to understand that those things that they're experiencing, not all of them, but those things that they might be experiencing or sensing or feeling or knowing, there are frequencies out there that they are tapping into. Okay, so all you kids that are out there, and all you grown-ups that had, fantastic abilities on sensing those frequencies that are unseen, or you can't see with the naked eye, or much less instruments of today. Okay? Instruments of today cannot, say, perceive, but they can see the foot tracks of those frequencies. For example, the observer effect, the double split experiment, the double slit experiment, and so on like that. Those are, again, tracks on the unseen, right? You're seeing tracks that are left by the unseen particles that we can't see, and that go beyond, say, electrons and protons and so on like that, or photons. So anyway, the point is that there are things out there, right, that your child senses, and it messes them up. Right? There are different realities. And again, science talks a lot about it. It's not really commonly explained that way, but there's a lot of, say, more and more evidence about, say, vibration. There's a lot of evidence about frequencies. There's more and more talk about, say, the origin of frequencies. It's like, well, how do these things originate? Where do they come from? There's evidence of higher individuals, again, high type individuals, or you might call them, say, geniuses, or brilliant individuals that tap in to, say, some other genius outside of their own self, and they talk about it readily, right? So there's plenty of things out there in history that say there are presences, or there are, say, realities, or however you want to call them. I've categorized them. Again, it's a science out there. There's different dimensions, different realities, different consciousness levels. Okay? And they're nested in within each other, that I talked about on the series at the Science Museum in London. So if you had a chance to take a look at that, or if you were there, it was quite amazing on how we could see it. And there was a couple of scientists in the room actually, and they're going, "Wow, that makes total sense, because that's what our findings are about." Why is this so important? Okay, it gives your child, and it gives you, that sense that you're not going fucking crazy. Okay, so that whole spiel, that whole talk was about, you're not going crazy. Okay, especially as this reality transforms into a higher version of itself, like it always has. It's always upgrading itself, right? That's where new technologies, new concepts, that's where, you aren't the same, or most of you, some of the things that we're doing, that we did back in the 50s, and, back in the 1800s, we're not doing it today, because consciousness has risen, right? It's allowed us to look at this reality very differently, right? So ADD, ADHD, autism. You mentioned I am in different timelessness and need to spatial reference. Can you see how am I doing, please? Yeah. So this one, a divergent beauty. So this is where ADHD. This is where scientists, again, or the medical community, they treat ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, and so on, from a form of physical space here, between the head here. That's not where it is. That's not where it originates from. Right. The reason why you have anxiety, or your kids have anxiety, is because and I know it might sound strange to you all, but if other things haven't worked out, right, you might want to listen, and you might want to just listen to it. You don't even have to believe in it, but don't make, say, an argument, and don't go, "Oh, that can't be it." Again, if things haven't worked out for your child, right, and a good number of you might be listening to this even later on, haven't worked out for your child, you've gone to the best of the best, and your child is still messed up, okay, you might want to listen to this, because this is probably the key answer, right? And I probably know, again, not a doctor in any way, but I've helped thousands and tens of thousands actually of kids, people, individuals with these types of problems, and they've overcome it. And for those who have overcome it, by the way, uh, either you or your child that have gone through exponential intelligence, please comment. It'll help the rest of the world understand that there is a different solution than giving your kids more drugs and so on like that. Right. So again, why? So let's start out first here. How fear, anxiety, and depression originate. Now, there's lots of reasons why. Okay, why how that instigates in your child or you, especially if you haven't, say, been, you're still older, and then you're still, as Michael Jackson put it, afraid of the moon or scared of the moon. I don't know if any of you heard that song. It's pretty, I think, Scared of the Moon. Take a look at it. Scared of the Moon, Michael Jackson. Those fears of children are still within us, basically. That's what the song is about. So really interesting. Not one of his popular songs, but again, quite interesting. So the reason why that happens, okay, now there are many reasons on how people get into that state. So there are many, many reasons, and I'll explain some of the bigger ones, but the main reason or the occurrence on why that happens, okay, why you get anxiety, why you get fear, and then depression is very, very simple. And I wish I had a drawing board, but I don't. So what happens is that your presence, okay, or if you want to call it your spirit, okay, I would call it your presence or your timeless self, your identity that is timeless. Okay, that identity has to know, has to understand where you create yourself. Okay, so what that means is if you think about it, there's two of you in this reality. Okay, there's a higher version of you, and then there's a lower version of you. Your physical version is the lower version of you. Okay, so just hear me out, and I'll explain some of the side effects that you might feel. So what happens is that this is I'll draw it this way, explain it this way. Your presence is around you. Okay, your light is around you. Okay, again, I would call it your timeless self, your higher logic. And for scientists, go, well, what is that? What does that mean? Well, there's a presence, obviously, that goes beyond, time and space. Right? How do you know that? Well, because this reality is created by that. And again, if you're a known scientist or those scientists that are really getting into it, you'd go, yeah, that's accurate. Again, there's a consciousness, and that's where neuroscience comes in, quantum neuroscience. It's that leap that goes, what's beyond that innate intelligence that we all have? How do we tap into that? So if you want to call it your innate intelligence versus your spirit, because that's been, watered down, versus your presence, that's been watered down as well. So that innate intelligence that is in your cellular identity that dictates, all your, say, autonomic nervous system, right? That intelligence is around you, right? That we don't know about. So it's a whole different field. That intelligence that dictates your heart rate, your chemicals, your hormones, and all those things that our brain, again, it bypasses the intelligence of the brain. It's almost another brain that we're talking about. I'll be writing an article on that pretty soon. I think it's called Brain. By the way, it's a new magazine. I'll be writing an article about, say, your natural intelligence. So take a look at that. And when it's published, I'll post it on my Telegram channel. So that natural intelligence that you have dictates or allows you to understand where you render yourself in this reality. Okay? It knows where your physical space is. It knows where your body is located at. Okay? So imagine that you're on Google Maps, for example. Okay, that natural intelligence that you have needs to know exactly where you are created, rendered in space-time in this dimension. Okay, so the kids, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but those kids that suffer from ADD, anxiety, and then soon after depression, what happens, and I'll explain, the formation of that from ADD, anxiety, and so on into depression, and then into suicide. The trajectory behind that. So what happens is that you start to understand that you're losing control of who you are, okay? Or how you render yourself. This is where your kid goes, I'm not feeling myself. I feel like I'm somewhere else. I don't feel connected to this world. Those are all symptoms. This is where you look at your child and it's like, gosh, they're not really here, right? They're here. They might even be listening to me, but again, they don't feel like they're present. They're not rendered here because they're not. They're rendering themselves in another dimension. In another dimension. You're in this dimension. They're rendering themselves here. Okay, so this is a really clear example. Say that everything happens in this room. Right? This happens. What happens in your experience? What your life happens in this room. Okay, what happens to your kid is another dimension. Okay, they've transferred or moved over into another room. Imagine that one. Imagine dimensions as rooms that you can say experience things in. Say in this room that you're in, everything is blue, for example, right? Everything you experience is blue. In the other room, everything is red. And I'm just giving you examples, right? Everything's happy. In one room, everything's sad. No matter what you do in that room, there's sadness. Okay, again, different dimensions. It's not different aspects of you, by the way. I'm just giving you examples for clarity. So what happens is that most people, again, resonate in the same room. Okay, your child somehow, and I'll explain some of the reasons why, your child has, say, run off into another room. Now, in between these two rooms, there's a veil, or what you would want to call, say, a glass. There's a glass partition or a glass wall. Okay. So, although you're interacting with your child here, okay, in fact, you're actually interacting your child across the room. And that's where the problem occurs. They think that their body might be physically here, but their consciousness or what their consciousness thinks where they are is behind, say, this glass wall. And this is where that disconnect happens to your child. This is where you can see that there's a disconnect happening. You go to doctors and go, yep, that child's not paying attention. That child's not this. We need more drugs. No, again, I'm not against drugs or anything like that, but you want to make sure that those drugs that are given to them, antidepressants and so on like that, that they don't distort their spatial referencing. Right? Talk a lot about spatial referencing on the 18 days, and if you get into, the exponential intelligence physics, the sciences behind that, it's very, very important. Your child starts to understand that it's like, wait a second, I'm creating myself in a room, and that's why I feel alone. Because when you're even with a group of people, have you noticed that those individuals, again, it could be adults as well, those individuals are outside of that room. And although you're with people, you feel alone. How many of you are like that, right? You're with individuals and you feel isolated and you can't connect with everybody. This is that explanation for you as well. So again, whether it's your child, whether it's you, whether it's still you, this is the reason why. There's a lot of CEOs that go through that process as well. By the way, one of the most famous CEOs, Elon Musk, he goes through that process. It's crazy. He doesn't connect with people. When he's on stage, he's in that one room, for example, and everybody sees him in that one room. But interpersonal relationships and so on, feels very separated, very disconnected. He hasn't figured out how to come into one room as well. So somebody's saying that's me. So yes. So why does that happen? There's lots of reasons why. But what happens is that autonomic nervous system that tells your heart, to beat faster if you're jogging, you ate some food, let's dump some whatever chemicals to whichever chemicals that you need to, digest that food. or it's nighttime. Oh, we need to dump chemicals and all that, so you can go to sleep better and so on. Again, you're running on a clock. You're running on, say, space time and a clock. So what in these kids, okay, ADD is basically you're in different realities. You're in a different room. Okay, that's where ADD happens. You're in a different room. Um, and you can't connect to anybody. Things of like like anxiety and so on like that, or similar issues, I would call it. They're running on a different time clock. Okay, it's like you're supposed to be here, but say that you're late for a plane. Okay? You're trying to catch a plane. Do you notice that you're like move forward in time? You get anxiety. Oh shit, I'm gonna miss a plane, right? Or you're behind time. It's like, God, I'm gonna miss something, right? So you're either behind time, you're in front of time. That's where anxiety happens. Right? So ADD, ADHD, and all those other things where they're not themselves, they feel alone, they feel disconnected, is that they're out of the room that most people are in. They're in another room, an isolated room, and they can only peer in, and other people can see them, and they can see that again they're disconnected. Anxiety type issues happen because again you're out of time. You're always afraid. So let me give you real examples. Okay, say that. And I'll just tap into a good number of you. Take a breath in and just we'll make this an experiential, because the explanations can do a whole lot, but when you experience something, it's a whole different scenario, right? Take a breath in, and let's see if this works for you. Take a breath in. There you go. We'll take you back to the childhood, those people that have experienced, say, this situation. Just give me a second. There you go. So those people who are facing, say, anxiety, or did face anxiety, notice how you're feeling. There's a delay, obviously, in the transmission, but you feel anxious. Yep, I am like this, anxious. Exactly. Nothing happened to you, guys. No psychology. Nothing changed in your reality. Your bank book is the same. Your relationships are the same. But again, why are you anxious? Why did you feel like, oh shit, I got to go do something? Because I put you in a dimension outside of, say, normal time and space. I feel fear. Okay. This is such truth, and your nervous system is short circuiting. Yeah. A lot of your nervous system short circuits because your nervous system runs on a time frame. Your nervous system runs on the universal time, or the time of the planetary system. How orbits of the sun. Your nervous system runs on nature's time, not human time, not family time, not clock time. Okay. Take a breath in, put you back into normal time. Feel calm now. Good. There we go. All right. Let's get you, say, out of touch or disassociated or not connected to people. Again, this works especially if you've been that kind of child or you still are as an adult, you know. Give me a second. Separating you. How do you feel? Feeling like a black hole. This one, I have no job, so much fear. It's not about the job. If you had a job, you'd have fear in something else. Very anxious, remembering the paralyzed sensation when you were younger, that you've gone through. Yep. So again, do you guys see its dimensions and realities that you are not supposed to be in? It sounds crazy, but tens of thousands of people can't be wrong. So what I do and what you can do, okay, is I do it a lot faster for you. I just put you in space and time, lock you in, and then you feel better. And again, I can give you example of young children, on the verge of going into mental institutions, taking, like, just being injected with a ton of drugs and stuff like that. And they have 1 or 2 sessions with me, and they're just like normal kids within like hours or sometimes days. Again, I'm not claiming anything, but that's what's happened to, again, dozens and dozens of kids, because kids like literally transform. So again, it's got nothing to do with your psychology, how your parents treat you, and so on like that. Or it could be, but it's basically how you render or how you create yourself in space and time, kids. Okay. If you have kids, have them please listen to this, and they'll go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Right. And they'll start to awaken. They'll start to realize what reality or what dimension that they're creating themselves in. And they go, oh, that's why I can't connect with anybody. I'm in this room or this dimension. Everybody else is here. A lot of times they do that, and this was what I was going to explain. A lot of times what happens is that, say your father comes in, and every time your father came in, he was like, say, drunk, right? He was drunk, and again, not the most, say, kindest person, and he might beat you up, right? So you basically set up a mechanism, a safety mechanism for you. It's like, well, shit, I can't escape this house, because the last time I escaped, he beat me up for, leaving the house, especially after dark. Who is that, by the way? Whose experience am I reading? Could be dozens of you, but again, whoever that is, right? You try to escape by leaving the house, and then when they came back, you got beat up even more, right? So whoever that is, let's work on that. Let's fix that for you all. So what happens is like, well, shit, I can't leave the house. I'm too young. I'm only a toddler, or I'm only 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. Where am I going to go? Well, what do? You exit your physical body. You go, you know what? The body can take the harm, the damage. I'm going to exit here so I don't remember, or I don't have to connect with, because it's safer that way. But that body somehow records, again, in your memory, conscious memory, it records it in your system. Okay. It's in your cellular memory because it's gone through that. But what happens, unfortunately, is your higher presence, okay? Let's call it your presence, escapes it, or your spirit just goes, I'm not part of that. And then this is where the disconnect comes. Your physical body's here, you're safer over here. So as soon as you hear that door open up and you know it's your father, where do you go? You just leave your body, and then you just, boom, escape, right? That was me. Exactly. You go into that hiding place. So over time, that hiding place has become a comfort for you. Okay? But then there's an after effect. Again, it's a great tool at the time, but then the after effect is that you can't connect to yourself. You can't enjoy yourself. And this is the next phase, right? First, it's anxiety or feeling loneliness or feeling, anxiousness and so on like that. Because again, you separated yourself, you're in that room, but every time you come back into yourself, what happens, unfortunately, is that you come back in and then you recreate the memories that were stored on what happened to you. So that body doesn't feel safe to you. So you're stuck because you can't go back, but you don't want to be here because that's not you. And then you try to go back and forth, but then you get disheartened. As you get disheartened, And again, there's if you have teenagers, guys, young kids, have them listen to this and they'll go, oh my God, that's my story. Okay. Just knowing that somebody can see it, somebody knows what they're going through, just listening to this, give it to your kids, guys. Okay. Just throw it on, even if they don't want to listen to you. Okay. And I talked about on why they don't want to listen to you, no matter how good you are, on the last Moss on Sunday. So you might want to take a look at that if you missed out on it. But just knowing that somebody knows exactly what's going on, that will go, oh my God, that's what's happening. I'm not going mentally crazy here, because that's that next step, especially when psychologists go, it might be mentally unstable, you know, right? Because there's an authority figure going, yeah, they're mentally stable. And then that works into that play as well. And when you're disconnected, you can become mentally unstable really fast. There's a ton of people that I've worked on, super intelligent people, but didn't know how to reconnect themselves. Okay? And then they go mentally unstable, or they reconnect themselves through becoming exponentially intelligent. So over time, you get bummed out. It's like, shit, I can never go back. I can never go back, because every time I do, it doesn't feel safe in my body. Right? How many women run that way? I don't feel safe in my body. And then you run towards somebody that wants to that you want to feel safe in your body with. Well, when you start feeling safe with that person, again, those memories come through to you, and then you feel like you're getting abused, or that person is abusing you, although they're not. Right? And again, that goes through way beyond childhood, but adulthood. So what happens now? Take a breath in, and we'll wrap everything up, and then we'll get on the two calls. What happens now is that over time you get depressed, because it's like, shit, you basically give up, and that's where depression starts to happen. It's like, I've tried everything, or almost everything, right? I've tried whatever I could, but I can't get back into my own life, my own body. This is where depression happens. So there's a disconnect, and you start to literally see the physical distance between where you should be, where your life is, where your potential is, and what you're missing out on over here. And then depression happens is where you see the distance. And then, deeper depression happens is that where you start to, say, push away, because now you're angry at yourself or angry at other people, and you don't like this reality, because it's like, fuck it. I can see all the grandness. I can see the possibilities. I can't ever reach it. So I'm just going to throw it away, push it away. So again, you getting farther and farther and farther away. You get to the point that this presence here is the power source of your physical body. And this is where, again, I call it a Bluetooth experience, right? So again, my Bluetooth here connected to my computer. If I go further away, the sound is going to get choppy. If you get further and further away, the connection between your presence, okay, higher consciousness, again, quantum neuroscience, that quantum neuroscience explains the gap, or that leap between, say, your brain, and then, say, that bridge, or again, the presence, or if you want to call it, say, that natural intelligence that everybody's connected to. Anyway, you start going further and further away, okay, and then in due time you go far enough away, and then the connection is dead. And this is where suicide has to occur, because there's no energy for this being. And then some people just pass away in their sleep. Some people have to have crazy accidents. Some people commit suicide, like they actually shoot themselves or do whatever. That's the reason. So that's the trajectory. So we went through a lot, I know. But again, if you have children that have issues, or you have nieces and nephews and so on like that, again, show them this video. Okay, all you have to do is like, hey, I think I have somebody that might actually know what's going on with you, right? Take a breath in again. So what I was doing as I was explaining, just because of time, I was helping you understand spatial referencing. I was helping you understand where you create yourself, where your child creates yourself. So if you're listening to this video, it's not just an explanation, it's an experience for you. That's the key about Moss on Sundays or anything I do, or anything you listen to. It's more of an experiential. So your innate being, your innate knowledge starts to kick in. So again, just listening to this, even if you're your boys are 5 and 2, um, even if they're 2 years old, they might not know what I'm talking about, at a conscious level, the words, but at a frequency level, if your child, I see your child, your 2-year-old walks away from themselves, by the way, from what I'm seeing, right? You see your child, they're playing intently, and all of a sudden it's like, where the hell did they go? Again, who's that? Again, by the way, if I read you, you're agreeing to um, our agreement that we can use this information in public forums because this is a public forum. Okay, so whoever that is, Haley Johnson, yeah, your 2-year-old. Okay, this is the exact same thing. Your 2-year-old hanging out, playing intently. They're in time. They're just like, wow, this is really great. And then all of a sudden something happens, and it's just like boom, and then the kid is almost like lifeless from what I'm seeing. Or sometimes you might have taken them to the emergency room or something to that effect, where it's just like, shit, what happened? My kid is just lifeless. What happened to him? His presence walked away. So why is that? I can help you with that, by the way. I would suggest a session for that. But again, whoever I read, please comment back on if that's what happens to your 2-year-old. Okay. So again, do you guys see how that works? It's got nothing to do with brain chemicals and so on like that. That is an after cursor. I'm not saying brain chemicals aren't important, but the underlying reason, if you're just fixing brain chemicals through, antidepressants and so on like that, they're fine, but you need to fix them at a spatial referencing point. You need to help them re-coordinate or synchronize in space and time, and then bringing their brain chemicals back to harmony is a lot easier with whatever that you do, right? Again, I'm not against that. But again, if this underlying reason, the first principle, isn't explained, isn't say fixed or resolved, you're gonna have to take more and more and more chemicals here, more and more prescription drugs, which mess you up even more. Those people who do, like psilocybin and marijuana and so on like that, to feel that calmness as they bring in. Again, if you don't, those are fine as well. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, if you're using that to pull you back into yourself, because a lot of you do that, again, you need to fix the underlying reason. This is not a fix, right? Drugs, anything, prescription drugs or other, what do they call that? Alternative type drugs. Again, it's not the fix. You can use that, especially alternative drug, to help you re-coordinate faster. But again, you need somebody to help you do it properly. And there's not a lot of people out there that can like edit your space and time. So, all right. Hopefully that helps. What to say to your kids when you see or feel things that aren't there, when they see or feel things that aren't there? Start to ask them, okay? This is spatial referencing for you. In spatial referencing, we talk about this in the elevation, by the way, that's coming up, August elevation. If you're new, you want to start the August elevation. It starts August 8th. It's a series of 4 meditations. It gets you into XI. Okay? It sets you up for XI. It sets you up to so you can jump into the 18-day essential, which is very powerful. It'll change your life in 18 days just by listening. That's how powerful it is. Elevation will set you up so you're very successful at that. Right? If you've been here before an XI, the elevation, it's not just for beginner. It's not a beginning class, guys, by the way. it just helps you allow yourself to understand the power of frequencies. If you're an expert, or if you're an XI and you've done this before, the elevation will keep that momentum going for you till you can stabilize on your own. So either way, what was I going to say? We'll bring on the two guests in just a moment here. This is so great. Moss, I'm kicking ass, totally an XI success story. You went from the most challenge with space and time to absolute nirvana. Would love a scan. So Sage, I would actually suggest, or if you can, would like to interview you, because Sage, back in the day as a child, you were pretty messed up with, again, what I call spatial referencing. A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety that you couldn't overcome, almost like not even going to school and all that stuff, from what I'm sensing. Again, you'd make a great turnaround story. So those on the team, again, if you could get Sage MD, maybe we could interview her on a bigger success story, right? On how that works. So space and time. So when your kid says, hey, you know what, I feel things, or I'm afraid to go to bed, it's like, well, why are you afraid to go to bed? What's going on? What do you see, or what do you experience? Some of your kids might see things, so you feel things, because what's happening is that you're in a dimension. Again, you're in a room, okay? And then what your child does is, like, they get closer and closer to that wall, okay? That's another dimension. Okay? So your dimension is here, for example. Okay? Your dimension is here, and I'll bring a whiteboard next time. Your dimension is here. Your child dimension is here, again, disconnected. And then that child sees this next room over here and this next room over here. That's not connected to this room over here where you are, right? And then it's like, shit. And then some children go even deeper and further, like they're like 20 rooms away. And that's where some of the scary realities that are in, even if it's a beautiful reality, it's too far from where they should be in physical time. Okay. So you start to understand, you start to ask them, it's like, well, what do you see? Right? What's out there? Sometimes, again, presences, stories, because stories are, say, ground in time. Say somebody died in the neighborhood. Okay. Their story still lingers. And they connect to that, say, that moment in time. So they might start speaking to, say, somebody that was dead, for example, or had died. And again, they're not connecting to the death, they're connecting to that story, but it feels real, okay? Because they're just going back in time. Take a breath in again. So when you start asking your children, the details, you start, and then this is where spatial referencing comes in. It's not just about the details. You start asking, it's like, well, compared to your body, where are they? Okay? Where do you see them? And then compared to your body, or actually the other way around, where do you see them compared to your body? Right? Where do you see me compared to your body? Right? If you're a parent, it's like, so do I feel like I'm in the same, say, space as you? And they'll go, no. And this is what I'm talking about, a different room. So once you start to, say, show them, it's like, oh, they'll go, gosh, I just slipped into another room. Okay? Especially if they start trusting you, by the way. Okay? And this is where actually trust starts to happen. Okay? So again, those are the first steps. Spatial referencing, if they're just sitting on the couch, playing video games, walk in and go, oh, I see you're sitting on the couch while you're holding the joystick, okay? Or while the joystick is in your hand, which is even better. Again, it's always the object and then a body part, okay? For kids, just do that, especially those kids who just float away. It brings them here. Have them have a widget. Remember the widgets that were really popular back in the day, the spinner things? The reason why they were so popular is because it focused those kids back in time. So give them a new widget, every other day or whatever. Hey, play with this, and it shouldn't be something that they just get used to, because then that just floats away, but something new, something different. And it doesn't have to be something very simple, but something that they can just hold on to and play with. So again, something very new, okay? So those are all the things that you can do with your children, and even with yourself. Okay. If you're nervous, say going into a meeting, anxiety, you step out. Okay. A lot of you CEO types, or a lot of you manager types, and so on like that. What's happening there for you is that you're going back to a time where an authority figure, okay, even if you're the authority, an authority figure came down on you and you escaped. So you start to get anxiety, right? That brings back that memory. Again, I help CEOs with this all the time, by the way. Okay. So you're replaying that. So if you have a widget, play with a widget, play with your pen, play with whatever, a paperclip, whatever, right, in your pocket, and then go into that meeting and focus in on that, say, paperclip, for example. You'll see that you're in time, and then you'll be more confident in the meeting. It sounds crazy, but just give it a try. Obviously, we have deeper sessions for individuals. We can just lock you in time, and then you dominate the space rather than being dominated from because of your past. All right, so second here. So there's a short video coming up, guys. So just a couple things. We have 2 life scans coming up where, again, we all have these abilities. I'm just showing the possibilities of what humans actually have the potential for. And I do teach this through the 18-day hyper meditations, the elevation meditations coming through for individuals. Again, we all have these abilities. I'm just showcasing them on these 2 great individuals that we're going to be interviewing real quick. So we've got the 2 live scans, Rachel and Keely, I believe, and then personal deprogramming, criticism. Well, criticism is one of those things that literally plop you out of your identity because you don't feel safe or you don't feel good in the identity of who you are. Who's had parents that just criticize, or not even criticize, they want to be helpful, right? It's like, yeah, that looks good, but you want to wear something else, or something to that effect. They want to do good for you, but it's like shit. Well, so that means that what I chose was not good, right? So again, so if that's you or if that's your kid, you want to join the personal deprogramming criticism that's coming up on Tuesday, August 2nd, which isn't too far. And then personal optimization, it's coming up this coming Sunday, the 7th, August 7th. It's on success, right? And that personal optimization, we kind of keep it open. We see what the group needs, and then we create a frequency around that, or a program around that to help you rewire that. So all right, we'll take a quick, and then August elevation, again, Monday, August 8th coming up. So we'll take a quick break, take a look at this for the elevation on what it's done, and then we'll come back with who is it? Rachel. Right. All right, guys, we are back. Welcome back to the second part of Moss on Sunday, where I scan individuals. And again, I do this for, individuals, in all spectrums, those individuals who, just want, a better access to better life, those individuals who have tried freaking everything, and they've given up, and they've come to me and it's like, hey, Moss, what's going on? And then those, like 1% of the 1% that it's like, Moss, I can buy anything in the world, but if I'm not fucking happy. What's going on? What is going on? I want that spherical abundance that, you talk about. So, and I scan them and I pinpoint exactly what's going on, and then, set a course, set a trajectory on how to get them. A lot of times it doesn't take long, and you'll see that coming up right now. So we'll go to Rachel first, and by the way, guys, for the both of you, just want to read. I'm not a medical doctor and I don't diagnose or heal, but if I give you medical advice or anything like that, I'm just telling you what I see. You can do with it. I could be totally off. I could be a madman telling you all this weird stuff. So again, do your own research, okay, and make your own decisions on that. So anyway, um, here we are, and it's okay to scan you on a public forum. Is that correct, Rachel?
Yes. Mhm.
Awesome.
Share,
All
by
right.
the way.
Oh, thank you. So again, what's your experience with XI?
Um,
Or
yes, it's been recent. I came to the exhibition in Islington in London a
hmm
little while ago, and you did a little bit of work on me
hmm
with regards to my mother, and
Okay.
now doing the 18 days. So we're
Okay.
coming towards the end, yeah. So
Okay.
really,
So you're getting into that. Awesome. So you're pretty much new. So how do you feel after we did that short session?
like a different person.
Yeah. And
Yes.
just Rachel,
Um,
so
mhm.
how long was that session? Like like I worked on you for like 10 minutes or something. Not even that.
Yes, we were in a small group, and you maybe spent 2 minutes on each or something. It wasn't long.
A
It
little bit
wasn't,
longer, but yeah.
or
It
perhaps
feels
a
like
bit
two
long.
minutes.
But I was I was in a euphoric state, and I don't know if you remember me. I was the one who just laughed all the time,
hmm
and everybody was very quiet, and I just couldn't help it. I was just like, I just
Yeah.
had lots. Yeah, it was, and that went on for a few days.
Okay. That's
Mm,
awesome. So again,
yeah.
again, she met me at in London. Just worked on her for about say 5 minutes personal time, and then half an hour, within the group time, which again is still powerful. But within that time, she said that her life like dramatically changed. Does that make sense to you,
Yeah.
Rachel? Would that you do you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel much more freer. Let's put it. I think the
Awesome.
most important is freer. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing in you. You're freer, but think of it this way, Rachel. You've been constrained or you've had blinders on literally your whole life because your parents, and I see more than just your parents controlling you. I don't know if you grew up with somebody else that took care of you, if that makes sense to you.
Yes.
Was there somebody
My
else that took care of you?
grandmother.
Okay. Uh, yeah, other than your mother, or did
Uh,
you?
yeah, I had to go around a little bit. So when my mother wasn't well, I was in care with family. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing. Um,
yes,
and let's just say they didn't care for you because you weren't their child. Does that make sense to you? That kind of puts a damper on things for you.
mm,
And then your mother not being really well, I don't see that stability or that mental stability, even if it was a physical issue. I kind of see it more of a mental issue. So then
mhm,
she would have physical issues going on. So for you, what you would do again, is that you would create blinders for you, okay, to go through life. As a kid, back in the day, it's like I see my mother's patterns, and you're very bright. You see, it's like I see and again, comment if I'm working on Rachel here, I'll be working on the rest of you as well. Okay, guys, especially if you have similar patterns. So what Rachel would do, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I see algorithms. I'm not a psychic. But you would do is like shit. I see mom there, and she's sick and she's ill. I don't want to grow up. I'm a woman. I don't want to grow up like mom. So it's like you put a blinder, like I see that she's there, but then you just don't want to focus in on those problems because then those problems will be yours. That makes sense? That's how you go through life, right?
yeah,
And then as you go through life, you see people with problems. You're that empath, so to speak. It's like, oh gosh, that person is, I know they're going to like me, but I don't want to connect with them because I know that they're just going to dump all their problems on me. Does that make sense to you? So what you do is like, I hear you, I see you. I don't want to be your friend though, because I know you've got a lot of problems. So you're always kind of a loner, and you're just like, I just want to be by myself, and I just want to, search for happiness by myself. I wish I had somebody, but like if I did have somebody, they would have to have people with no problems. Otherwise, their problems become mine, and then I have to fix their problems as well.
Right.
So that's your pattern. Does that make sense? Or that was your pattern.
Yeah.
So, so that session in the UK, what I did was remove you of that, and now, and as a confirmation, people kind of stay away from you naturally. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? Which is
Yeah.
really nice.
Yes.
It gives you more freedom. And this is where you are. People stay away from you naturally, especially people who were like burdensome. You could see it from far away. It's like, God, that person, in the past, that person would have come to me, and then they would have just dumped their whole story on me within the first 5, 10 minutes. But
Mhm.
now they just like walk away from you because again, you're at a stronger level. You're just sending out, hey, I'm not that person. You can't clean your emotionally dirty shoes on me anymore. Again, so there's a lot of power and confidence coming out in you. But with all that power and confidence, you don't know where to go yet. And that's what I'm helping you with today. It's
Yeah.
like, gosh, there's a lot of possibilities that I'm seeing now. Now that
Mhm.
I don't have to worry about all this other stuff, about fixing other stuff. Because since you've fixed other people's stuff, and again, those people who run her patterns comment in, when you're fixing other people's stuff, especially when you're 20s, from what I'm seeing, 22, 23, 24, 25, around that age, it's like time stopped for you. And it's like, when I fix their stuff, then I can start my time, if that
Mhm.
makes sense to you. But then
Right.
your time never shows up, and then, well, you're a little older. Does that make sense how that works?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know about the age thing, but it was an ongoing thing, I think.
yeah, isn't
Yes.
but around in your your mid 20s though,
Mhm.
it's almost like time really slowed down for you, or something happened where you didn't pay attention to your life. You
Mhm.
were obligated to somebody else. It could be a boyfriend.
Okay,
Uh,
yes, I got married around 27.
okay,
So
so that's what it is.
yes.
Yeah, so you got married around 27. Okay, so you've a little off, but that's close enough. 25.
Yeah,
So,
but I met him
uh,
when I was probably 20, 25. So you're right. No, you're right.
yeah. So, okay, yeah. So you got married 27, met him around 24, 25. Got it. So that moment on, it's like, shit. Basically, what do I have to do to keep this person? And you adapt it to there, and then you lost your identity. That makes sense too. So, so that's where that slowdown. So as I'm seeing those things that have slowed you down, and again, we've cleared a lot of the childhood stuff. Let's clear from like 15 forward. Again, in your 20s. How old are you?
I'm 60.
50. Okay. So what'll happen to you, which is really cool, and this is what I'm working on, is again, you're seeing all the possibilities that could be as a 50-year-old, but then you're also gonna see possibilities that you missed out on. Okay, it's not there to distort you or go, shit, I missed out on it. It's there for you to go, oh, those possibilities are coming back to me. So something that you wanted to do, I want to say in your early 40s, that you didn't get a chance to do. You had an opportunity, but you said no to it. Um, and again, I could be off a couple years. There's an opportunity that literally would have given you a different life, and you said no to it. That opportunity will show up again for you. Take it.
Okay.
Right? Was there an opportunity around that age, maybe 39 to
So
40?
actually, when I was 40 is when I packed my bags and I started to travel. So,
Ah,
uh, but I'm
okay.
60 now, not 50, Mas. I think you
Oh, I'm
misunderstood
60.
me. 60,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Well, you look beautiful or
Thank
60. Okay.
you.
So
um,
you're going to feel
so
even younger. So,
maybe when I
so
was 50,
go ahead.
maybe when I was 50, no, I don't know. I don't
I think it
remember.
was 40. I think it was 40. Again, 40, you said you packed your bags. So
Yes,
you packed your bags, but then you took your old self along. You
yes,
didn't change. You just moved. You know what I mean? You moved location. That's what I
yes,
was getting at. So that
yes.
was an opportunity for you to see the changes. So basically what's happening is
Mhm.
that again, XI and what you've done so far, and which isn't much, but again, this is it's just it's very powerful. You're going to start say having that opportunity to pack your bags and then travel again. But this time, when you travel, Rachel, what's going to happen is like, hey, you know what? I could be this. I could be that. And this is where a new identity for you comes in. So before you travel to escape, now, to escape your old self, which most people do, now you're going to travel again from what I'm seeing to find yourself. And this is like, oh, that's me. That's what I wanted to do when I was younger. And then you have some of those experiences, even in your like late 20s or early 30s and stuff, when you missed out when you got married. So it's that vibrancy is going to come. The cool thing about it, especially if you continue to do the 18 days and then the total human reset coming up for you, which you can dynamically transform all aspects of your body will start to shift to a younger version of yourself. So you don't have to age like your parents do. You're looking great for 60, but again,
Thank
you
you.
can go back into, I would say, your mid 40s and start living that way from it, which is really amazing for you. And then you get to it's a second chance on life. So, do you have any questions, by the way?
Yes, I have actually two. Feel I have two blockages,
Mhm.
but it's probably all related to this. So one is work abundance money, because I work all the time, but I have not been able to keep any money, and
Yep,
I'm aware of it now,
yep,
and but it's still not like I don't have the work that I need to be able to to
yeah,
float a little bit, and
yeah.
and then the other one is just relationship wise. So
Hmm.
I've been now on my own intentionally, I would say, almost for the past 10 years uh,
Hmm.
or 8 years. Because
Hmm.
before that, I always had to be in a relationship. I couldn't live by myself. I wasn't anybody on my own. So I had to do this time by myself.
Hmm.
But I would like to know a little bit if you could see me with anyone again.
Well, quickly, just because of time. So quickly, those things were resolved when I put you into your new possibilities. So your new possibilities do include career, but again, initially, you're going to travel and find out who you really are because that's what you wanted to do again in your 20s and then again in your 40s, but you never had a chance. Okay, so don't worry about work. And you go, well, where am I going to get the money? It's kind of crazy, but money will show up for you to travel, and you're not going to be scrounging around for money. Money will show up for you to travel. So that's your first step into believing that there's a higher version of you, watching over you. Okay, that's real, somebody watching over you. Okay,
Okay.
so the second phase is relationships, like you said that intentionally you've stepped away from relationships. And that's because of what I said earlier about you. Because if you get into a relationship, all their shit is going to, all their garbage is going to be dumped onto you. So that's why you intentionally, you're intentionally not connecting. But as you change, you're going to meet people in your journey, because I see you traveling a lot. In your journey, that's, oh, this is really nice. Oh, this is really nice, and then eventually you'll settle in. But for now, I kind of see you not necessarily dating, but experiencing a lot of people, because that's, you like to meet a lot of people. And that's why you kind of opened yourself up, but you didn't want to meet all their garbage. So you
Mm.
experience, different people. And that's, and then later on, not too later, I can see you settling with, a small group of people, so to speak, or one individual later on. But that's a few years from now, from what I'm seeing. But right now, you're just going to be happy with yourself, but then experiencing other people, right?
Right.
And that's what makes you happy. But your career and all that stuff, that starts to shift as well when you start again changing. People that run your patterns, by the way, that turn into CEO level types, those individuals who run your patterns, their employees say that, and I work with people like this, you know, they have a company with like a couple hundred employees. All their employees dump their garbage unknowingly onto that CEO because they are the company. They are that head of the company. And all the employees' problems start to come into that
Yeah.
CEO, which is not good. So that's why money kind of say slips away or you stay away. The same reason why you stayed away from relationships is the same reason why you stay away from success. Because success again will burden the hell out of you. But now that those opportunities are open for you. Okay.
Okay.
We have to move on.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Um, you're so welcome, hon. Any last words? How are you feeling?
Yeah, that's just really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. I'm
And then
waiting.
you'll see in a very short time that, because you move fast, in the next month or two, even more dramatic changes will happen for you. So
Wow.
congratulations, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you very
Um,
much.
you're so welcome. We'll move on to Keely, or is it Kelly? Not exactly sure.
Mm.
Reading some of the comments, guys, this explains a lot for me too. Feels good to know that. Um, yeah, and notice that um, for her, you couldn't see the changes as much, but there was more. Did you notice there was more like things going on in her head, going, God, I could do this, I could do that. So those things were coming in for you. So again, as I'm working on, say, is it Keely or Kelly?
Keely.
Kaylee. Okay. Uh,
Keely.
Keely. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Where are you calling from, hon?
I'm from the Isle of Sheppey in Kent, so that's off the southeast coast of England.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So what have you done with XI? And again, you don't mind me sharing your what I see with the public forum here?
So no problems with sharing. And for myself personally, no. I was introduced to you by a lady called Melinda,
Okay.
who I think was involved with an event in London. She was one of the ones that organised the hosting of it.
Oh, okay. Got it. So, Keely, let's just jump right in, if you don't mind. Okay, that way, just because of time. What I see in you, I see three versions of you, if that makes sense to you.
Right.
And some people go, well, what are three versions? So I'll explain, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, when you're in front of somebody, you'll morph into that person that person will like. When you're in front of somebody else, you'll morph into that person that person will like. Okay? And then there's three versions of you. And people go, well, I do that all the time because that's what life is about, you know, especially if you're in sales. That's not what sales is about, guys. Those salespeople, they burn the hell out of themselves doing that. You can expand into that person, but you don't want to switch. But the problem is that you've done that since you were a little kid, like 2, 3, 4 years old. That makes sense to you. You didn't know which way to go. So it's like your mom had a very different direction for you to go to. Your dad had a very different direction for you to go to. And then I see maybe somebody else, or maybe this is your life. Oh, do you? Oh, you're one of those kids that used to see things when they were young or experience things, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is the talk that I did. I don't know if you're listening to the talk, Kaylee, but
Yeah.
that talk was basically about you. Okay. So again, these kids, fantastic abilities, but they just don't know how to understand, say, how to stay in the reality that they need to be, because there are possible realities out there for you. Okay. There's a lot of science proving that. So what you would do is like, say a mom's version of what you should be, you know, say somebody else's version. It's almost like a parent's version of what you should be, then somebody else's version, maybe a school version of what you should be, you know, when you're growing up or something like that. I don't know. Did you go to a strict school? I see a lot of strictness in you or a lot of discipline. Where does that come from?
No, not in the school, and I wouldn't say that my mum and dad had ever had a belief in which direction. In fact, they gave me a lot of freedom in my
Okay.
direction. Probably
Okay.
more the school in their belief
In their
system.
belief. Okay. But I see a lot of restrictions on you.
Hmm.
Uh, where does that come from? Did, did you go to a, say, a Catholic type school or that kind of school?
No, no. It's probably more of a situational.
Okay,
Um,
situational. Okay. Or could that restriction be put upon you, on you, from what I'm seeing? Because you're really hard on yourself, from what I'm seeing, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
protective, protective, I would say.
Okay.
So cautious.
Protective, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. We
Mm.
can go along with your words or your vocabulary. That's fine.
With the
So,
only right, so using the language of the school, I had one teacher that said I would never amount to anything. I would be just a housewife. Not that that is a bad thing to be, but that was her belief.
yeah.
So
So, and then, okay, so a couple things going on. Take a breath in, hon. Just notice the back of your neck, the top of your neck, shoulders. Seems like you
yeah,
have issues there,
yeah,
from what
I
I'm
carry it
seeing.
there.
Yeah. So we'll work on the physical issues. That's a for Xi, that's a no-brainer. And then also, um, well, physically, I don't know. Um, do you have kids or do you have problem having kids?
No,
Or
I've got two lovely, beautiful adult children.
okay,
Very adult. In
okay.
fact, I'm a gran.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. So I just see that you didn't lose a kid, but it might have been difficult somehow with pregnancy or your
Uh,
mom.
but both my children, I was in labour for 26 hours, one of which ended up in emergency section. So
Okay.
I would consider that quite difficult.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So those things are still resonating or those memories, it's muscle memory. So in that midsection, you still feel kind of say pregnant to me, although you're not. Because you got stuck in a time frame. Does that make sense? Because it's like, oh gosh, I might lose myself or I might lose my baby, that kind of deal. And again, that midsection say isn't as healthy as it could be, let's just say. Okay. So, or a lot of tightness in that area. Okay. So take a breath in again. So a couple things going on. So we'll work on that physically on the back end, but let's go back to your story. So again, so one, you see realities, you see one possible reality that you could be, and then you see your parents' reality on, say, what it is, and then you have a school teacher, another reality that says you're going to be nothing more than a housewife. And then this is the one thing that you discipline yourself on, and you've been really hard on yourself to go, there's no way in hell that I'm going to end up being a housewife. Does that make sense? And that's where the discipline or the restriction comes in, if that makes sense to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
So there's three of you. Okay. Again, a life that's could be possible or a fairy tale life and so on. But then you're always running after that fairy tale life and you're always reaching for it and seeking for it and doing a lot of work for it. But it's like you're always running after it. The reason why you'll never reach it in the way that you're doing it, it's not because you haven't worked hard enough or you're not even, it's not even about doing it right. It's just that you're doing it in three different realities. So even if you did reach, say, success, whatever success would be for you, it doesn't really matter. Okay? You would feel that void and you would still say discipline yourself or be harder on yourself more and more, if that makes sense for you. Because the more success you have, the more discipline. And again, another big problem with CEOs. So take a breath in. What if we could do this for you, Keely?
Yeah.
You're running three patterns, again, three very different realities. And when you're in those different realities, your body shape or your presence changes, by the way. You're three very different people. Does that make sense? When
Yeah.
you get older, it becomes a problem because this is what happens. Right now, you're kind of like running in parallel and you just switch lanes. But then when you age, those lanes separate. And it's harder for you to stay in those realities because, again, they're separate. You can't just like change, you can't merge from one lane to the other. You
Uh-huh.
literally would have to take a detour and come back. That makes sense? So, what
Yep.
we're going to do instead of you getting that way as you age, take a breath in. Notice your sternum bone, where your ribs connect in the front. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So what we're doing is we're going to start merging. Imagine yourself, and you guys can do this too, by the way. You're three lanes, okay? You're driving your body, you're in your car or in your identity, and you have three lanes. In one lane, you're that speedster or whatever your mom and dad wanted you to conform to. The next lane over, the middle lane is your disciplinary, lane, and then the next lane over is your more freedom, the possibilities and so on. Imagine that. Close your
Mhm.
eyes if you can. Okay. So imagine which lane, and you always prefer, obviously, that freedom lane, but you're hardly there because that life controls you. Take a breath in again. So in the past, you go, again, those lanes have been separating, but now, the lanes are merging together. Right? Again, one lane is ending. So the, we'll merge how you parent, because your parents weren't bad, let's just say, you know. Um, um, yeah, you could learn a lot from your parents. So what we'll do again is delete the things that aren't needed from your parents, genetics and stuff like that, behaviors, attitudes, and so on, and then pull the good things. So as those lanes merge, and again, imagine you're on the parents' lane, and then you're merging into that disciplinary lane. Okay, you're merging into that disciplinary lane, and then you're leaving again all the negatives of your parent that you don't want to inherit. And then you're only taking, because that lane only allows you to take the important stuff, the good stuff from your parents. Okay. So you merge, and then that lane disappears. And by the way, I'm doing this at a higher level for you. So for you in the near future, you won't be able to access that reality for you. Okay. I'm just running you through a visual. Take a breath in again. Some of you doing it outside. Again, you might not see those lanes because this is specifically for Keely here. Okay? And now you're running along and you might actually see your right side of your body kind of merging or feeling different. That makes sense to you, Keely? Does that make sense or no?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because you're literally merging. Your cellular identity, your genetics are merging. Okay. All right. So now that lane ended. So now you're on a two lane. Your life is on two lanes. Okay. And again, a little more time should be needed, but because of time, we'll push you into one lane. Take a breath in. Notice your sternum bone and notice your lower back. So this is where discipline happens for you. And as one person said, the masculinity of discipline, not the feminine aspect of becoming disciplined. Again, your identity, your midsection, or your physical features of being a woman, kind of like tainted through, say, a physical or masculine presence around you, or being dominated, say, by a masculine identity, or being dominated by, again, more than just, say, a husband or a partner, but all those kind of things that come from that discipline. Even if they're not there, again, you would discipline yourself from a masculine role. Okay, so let's do this. that lane, that disciplinary lane, and by the way, the teacher that said that to you was very masculine, by the way. Okay. Um, so anyway, that lane is ending. It's merging into the field of possibilities, the realities of possibilities that you want. Discipline is really good, but the way you discipline again is you're hard on yourself, which you can be, but you want to discipline yourself in space and time. I talked about this on the 18-day hyper meditations. You want to discipline yourself so you stay stable. You don't want to discipline yourself. I did something wrong. I'm going to abuse myself. You know, that kind of discipline. Or you did something wrong and then your mom and dad, disciplines you for something. Not that kind of discipline. This is about staying strong. Take a breath in. So the disciplinarian in you, what we're going to do again, you're going to merge into the field of possibilities, because the field of possibilities will mess you up if there's not discipline there and that the knowledge of your parents. So let's remove, if we can, the negative, say, identities or definitions of discipline for you, and we bring in a proper definition. So one, you're female, right? So discipline that is geared females, because there is no female discipline, male discipline, but somehow society has fucked it up. Um, so anyway, we need to understand that we're female first, and then we discipline ourselves. Okay, take a breath in, and now you're merging into a singular lane. There you go. And you look behind as that lane of discipline ends, why you were hard on yourself, why you never felt good enough about yourself, why you didn't even like being a female, all those things that'll show up for you because you weren't good enough in front of your eyes or other people's eyes. That's not the kind of discipline. So you're really hard on yourself to be, look, I'm deserving, look, I'm better, and it's moved you along. So we'll pull that aspect of it, but all those other negative comments about it, let's just delete that for you, so you get right discipline, the right type of discipline. Take a breath in. There you go. So now, how do you feel? You're merged into that one singular lane. There you go. Notice your whole body, not just your right side, but notice your whole body seems to be more, say, conforming, which is again discipline. Now you feel like you're more in just say a oneness with yourself, which is you wanted the discipline. Because many people discipline themselves, just like of what I said earlier today on the young adult topic, because they discipline and they abuse themselves to stay in one reality. Right? Now you don't have to do that anymore, Keely. Take a breath in. Somebody's commenting, you look more relaxed. Do you see that you're in a natural flow? So the field of possibilities that you tapped into as a child with the proper discipline, right, will guide you into a better life experience for you, where you can actually be relaxed and know that you're a good person, know that you're worthy more than just being a housewife, so to speak. And this is where a lot of, say, jealousy will come up for you, hon, in a very short time. This is XI jealousy, by the way. And XI jealousy is not cutting down other people. XI jealousy is like, hey, that person has that something. That something will look good on me too. So that's the difference. You don't cut that other person down. It's like, well, why can't I have that thing, right? So you get jealous about yourself, and then you start to magnetize. So I see your life changing quite a bit, by the way, because you've got that momentum, you've got the drive, you've got a lot of things going for you. There you go. He said, discipline from a stable but nurturing space. Absolutely. There you go. Are you feeling? You feel one, by the way? Your smile actually looks really beautiful. It looks, well, it looks like a young girl that's coming out, doesn't it, guys? And again, comment in. She'd love it. But again, your smile. So somebody was saying, why can't she stay in that better place? She can now. But if you're just in the field of possibilities as a child, well, a lot of those realities and possibilities that children can't get into, like, yeah, we can fly. Well, in this reality, you can't really fly because you need, I mean, you can fly, but you need, the aerodynamics to fly and so on like that. So again, discipline in this respect will help you filter out those possibilities and then utilize, say, the possible possibilities, the cool possibilities of this reality for you. So, do you want this frequency locked into you, Keely?
Yeah.
Okay, so take a breath in, notice your gut, notice your um, solar plex, and then just go below into your belly and then into your groin area. So many people are commenting, you look beautiful, you look so much more relaxed, you look wonderful. I could see a young girl before, but now that young girl has removed a great burden. Now you're just feeling being that young girl. You will go back in time, by the way. There you go. She looks more happy and more female. And even your demeanor, hon, you're softer. You probably feel more softer, more calm about yourself. You can step into being a woman, so to speak, and really embracing it. That makes sense to you? And really enjoying being a woman, which will help, obviously, your relationships, if you still have one, or it'll improve those relationships. There you go. How do you feel, hon?
Good.
Okay. So, and again, it's not just an emotional good. This will stay with you because it's a rewiring of how you ran your pattern. So, we'd really like to. So, if the team listening in, let's bring her on whenever we get that reunion of individuals, and you'll see that Keely, by the time we'll do the before and after, and just in the next 2-3 months, Keely, your whole life will just like even now. Look, wow, you look. No offense, you look. I mean, you look great then, but you look like a strong, solid female rather than this masculine discipline. I am this. You can just stabilize in yourself, doesn't she? And you're glowing, by the way. Beautiful, hon. Congratulations. We'd like to bring you on. Oh yeah, somebody's talking about your children. Your children are older, but they get a chance to become themselves as well. But I'd like to bring you on. I don't know when, in a few months or whenever we have that reunion, and you'll see how your life, how much changes have come back. Uh, Yeah, you look a lot younger and more just here. So congratulations. Any questions before we end?
And not presently, but the irony is that in my teachings, it's all about nurturing and discipline. so,
So now you're going to do it the right way.
yeah.
To yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
you're going to do it.
Practice what I preach.
Yes. So you've been practicing, you've been teaching properly, but the reason why you've been teaching it that way is because at a deeper level you wanted to do it on yourself, but you couldn't. So
Yeah.
really nice job. Right? Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
You're so welcome, hon. All right, guys. So do you guys understand again? Do you guys see how fast you can transform? It's not, again, not psychology or therapy and all that stuff. You saw her, I mean, just change right away. And some of you, again, naysayers go, that, it just, no, it stays that way. Okay. And just to show you that it'll stay that way, again, we're going to bring her on later on in a couple months, and you'll see the before and after pictures. For those who have before and after pictures, again, post them on social media and tell them how those before and after pictures came about. Okay, like this if you can. Subscribe to this channel, like it if you can, share it with people. That'd be really fantastic. Share it to even say some child psychologists and those individuals that that really are seeking to help those children recover. Send it to your schools and so on like this. This episode, this will really help those individuals. The number of suicide, teenage suicide, guys, is risen exponentially, which is really, really sad. It doesn't have to happen. A lot of those kids, again, I've helped them. A lot of those kids, maybe one quick session. And by the way, there is a free suicide prevention. And again, I don't, I'm not saying I cure suicide or anything like that, but if you're there at that level, you might want to try it out. Again, it's a free meditation that we have out there. So play it, see if it works. You've got nothing to lose, right? But again, it doesn't need a private session for that. You could just do it at a group level. Okay. Again, just listening to today's will help a lot of individuals, but people need to know about it. So again, start sharing the experience. All right. And we can, like somebody said, change the world. All right, guys, as we end, notice what you notice and then notice the details of what you're noticing. By the way, this is, I think this is the last week on Sunday. And correct me if I'm wrong, team. Next week, yeah, August, next Sunday, it's worldwide frequency meditation where we focus in on the world, right? So again, bring as many people as you can so we can transform the world for real. All right, guys, notice what you notice and then notice the details of what you're noticing. All right, peace.